street scene in North Gaza. Impromptu tent camp for Palestinians. Speaking with local students in the camps, they were friendly, civil, and appreciated a conversation with Americans. Harriet Fulbright, Steve Buck, and Stephanie Fox discussed some of the issues with local residents and political figures.
Made this big circle because we couldn't even drive down the road that parallels the border. So we spent 12 hours in transit, and it seems to me that it would be greatly to the advantage of certainly the Gazans, the Palestinians, and the Israelis, when groups are in for legitimate reasons, reporting on things, for them to let us out at a more convenient place and save everybody a lot of time and trouble. But that didn't happen. Can you explain why that situation exists?
Well, the explanation is that it's the policy, and it's a long-standing policy, the restrictions on access. At the moment, we have great difficulty gaining terms of peace, security, and stability. Look at it from an Israeli perspective in terms of security for the people in Sderot, for example, and then look at the issues, each of them. So, denying people access to Gaza, such as yourselves, or exit from Gaza, such as yourselves, how does that serve the people of Sderot? How does that help to move the process forward? It doesn't, frankly speaking, and there is no answer to it, and that's the problem, that we have a big disconnect between the consequence of these policies and the overarching objective. I mean, all of this is supposed to contribute to stability, security, and peace. If Israel implements a policy, it's supposed to be in its own best interest. I mean, that's the rational starting point. But when you look at the consequence on so many of these things, it's not in their best interest. They cannot explain it to be in their best interest. And that's where we need to then hold people to account. We need to say, look, we're with you in terms of your concern. For example, if you're from the Israeli side, there's a major concern about security. And it's not a theoretical concern, it's a very real, pragmatic, practical concern. Israeli civilians are being killed by the violence that emanates from Gaza. Fine, we need to deal with that, and we need to deal with it effectively. But what we have to do is we have to measure each action against whether it's actually effective or not. And what we have found for years here is that the actions are counterproductive to the objective that is stated. And it's creating fermenting more despair, frustration on the ground at one level. And in addition, it's also creating new conditions, such as for the tunnel industry. All of these things. For example, the industry in Gaza has collapsed in the last year and a half. It was a small industry, but it was growing. 1,000 people, 100,000 people had employment. They were earning, relatively good salaries by comparison with the rest of the population, maybe $800 a month. They were in business relations with their Israeli counterparts, so they were producing textiles, they were producing furniture, and so on and so forth, in cooperation with Israeli companies who were part of the conduit for export. And this was productive for all sides. Now, the blockade, which was introduced in June 2007, put all of those people out of work because they wouldn't allow any economic activity. So nothing gets into Gaza now from Israel through the crossing points. And the businessmen who were the infrastructure, the infrastructure of Gaza, are impoverished, while trade has now moved from overground to underground. And those same businessmen who were traditional friends of Israel, people who had very important status with Israel, they had freedom of movement, they were security checked, and so on and so forth, they're the ones that are impoverished. And the others who run the tunnels are the ones who are enriched by all of this. We will not be able to do anything positive until we can reconnect with the truth. And this is, this is why your visit was so important. Because, for example, at the outset of this last round of conflict, the stated objective was that the military operation was to destroy the infrastructure of terror and stop the rockets being fired into Israel. Fantastic. We're all for that. Who could be against that? No ambiguity, there's no room for ambiguity. If there's an infrastructure of terrorism, you need to destroy it. And the rockets need to be stopped. Right. Now, what did they do? They destroyed the American International School, not in collateral damage or in the crossfire, but rather with a missile that completely destroyed it. There's 250 children who attended that school, learning the American curriculum in English and so on and so forth. That's not the infrastructure of terror. That institution was attacked by extremists twice in the last 18 months. Okay? But it's now destroyed. The extremists did not succeed in destroying it. The State of Israel destroyed it. And the children who were in that school were not the children of extremists in Gaza. They were the children of the so-called economic elite. Put the rule of law back to where it should be. It's not some abstract idealistic thing. The rule of law is what defines us as civilized or uncivilized anywhere in the world. The other half of the population are kids, teenagers, young kids, who are anyway rebellious in their thinking orientation, as kids are everywhere, and they don't know it. They only know what they're told. They don't know it from experience. And what we're going to do very soon is we're going to wake up with a different population who will be the product of the environment and who will allow the injustice to consume them, the despair to consume them, and the propaganda to dictate to them their actions.
I'm Tanya Harry, the Director of International Relations for GISHA, the Legal Center for Freedom of Movement. We're an Israeli human rights organization founded in 2005. GISHA's position is that Gaza is occupied territory. We believe that even if you don't think it's occupied, that Israel has a responsibility to the extent that it still has control, and where it has exclusive control that no one can deny is over the crossings and the entrance of goods and the movement of people.
In the city of Hebron, there are many closed streets, like a Shuhada street, and I know you have a visit to the old city and you will see and you will touch the upheaval situation, you will see the suffering of our people by your eyes, you will visit the areas, you will see the settlers who